those certain members have decided to get into bed with the devil, right, to rehabilitate their image. But
Yeah.
the moment that rehabilitation comes at the detriment of others, me, other members of my family, then that's where I draw the line. It happened without fanfare, without press releases, without the thunder of official announcements echoing through Buckingham Palace halls. Just silence. But not the comfortable kind of silence, the kind that makes your skin prickle, the kind that screams louder than any proclamation ever could. One screenshot, that's all it took. A single image shared by a sharp-eyed royal watcher at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning sent shockwaves rippling across the globe. The royal family's official website had been updated quietly, deliberately, and the change was devastating. Where once stood the titles Duke and Duchess of Sussex in formal, proud lettering, there were now just two simple names, Harry and Meghan. No fanfare, no explanation, no apology, just absence. Within 17 minutes, the screenshot had been shared 10,000 times. Within an hour, every major news outlet from London to Los Angeles was scrambling to verify what nobody dared believe. Had King Charles III finally done it? Had he actually stripped his own son and daughter-in-law of their royal titles? The palace press office? Silent. Clarence House? No comment. Kensington Palace? Nothing. And that silence, that deafening, calculated, strategic silence, told the story more powerfully than any official statement ever could. Because in the House of Windsor, silence isn't absence. It's a weapon. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal will change everything you thought you knew about this royal family. The whispers behind palace walls, the secret meetings, the breaking point that finally pushed King Charles to take the most devastating action against his own son in modern royal history. Are you ready? Because the story gets darker before it gets lighter. The breaking point. How we got here. Let's rewind. Because to understand why this moment shattered the royal family, you need to understand the years of pressure, scandal, and heartbreak that led to it. Remember the fairy tale? The wedding that promised to modernize the monarchy? May 19th, 2018. Windsor Castle bathed in sunlight. A biracial American actress marrying a British prince. The world celebrated. Hope bloomed. This was supposed to be the crown's rebirth. Proof that the ancient institution could evolve, could embrace change, could reflect modern Britain. That dream lasted approximately 18 months. By January 2020, Harry and Meghan had already announced Megxit, their stunning decision to step back as senior working royals. The palace released a statement dripping with barely concealed disappointment. The press went ballistic, and the British public divided straight down the middle. But stepping back was just the beginning. What followed was a systematic dismantling of royal privacy. Brick by brick, interview by interview. March 2021, the Oprah bomb. 73 million people worldwide watched as Meghan sat beside Harry in that California garden and detonated truth bombs that would echo for years. Allegations of racism within the royal family, accompanied by claims that the firm refused to provide mental health support. These revelations drove a wedge so deep between Harry and William that it may never heal. The palace's response? That infamous statement, "Recollections may vary." 3 words. That's all they gave. And in that brevity, they declared war. Harry and Meghan's 6-part Netflix documentary pulled back the curtain even further. Palace staff called it betrayal wrapped in production value. The couple called it truth-telling. Clips of Meghan mocking the curtsy she performed for the Queen. Harry detailing arguments with William. Private text messages, private photographs, private pain made public for the world's consumption. King Charles, newly crowned, watched from Buckingham Palace as his family's private moments became entertainment. Sources say he barely slept that week. Then came Harry's memoir, Spare. The title alone was a finger to the institution that raised him. Inside those pages, you find a shocking catalog. Details of physical altercations with William, drug use revelations that had palace lawyers on edge, intimate insights into Charles's relationship with Camilla, and accusations that cut to the very bone of family trust. The book sold 1.4 million copies in the first day alone. It became the fastest-selling non-fiction book in history. And with every sale, every headline, every excerpt, the chasm between Harry and his family grew wider. But here's what most people don't understand. None of these public spectacles were the final straw for King Charles. He endured them all with that famous Windsor stoicism, that stiff upper-lip determination to weather any storm. So what changed? What finally pushed Charles from patience to action? The answer will surprise you. The secret meetings behind palace doors. Let me take you behind the scenes to what was really happening while the world watched the public drama unfold. Starting in August 2023, King Charles began holding private meetings at Clarence House. Not the usual constitutional discussions with prime ministers or Commonwealth representatives. These were different, more intimate, more painful. The attendees varied, but 3 people were present at nearly every meeting. Prince William, the heir to the throne, whose relationship with Harry had deteriorated beyond recognition. William wasn't just angry anymore. He was done. Sources close to the Prince of Wales said he told his father multiple times, "They can't keep the titles while attacking everything those titles represent. It's unsustainable." Serving was Queen Camilla. Often underestimated, Camilla had become Charles's closest advisor. She understood media warfare better than anyone, having survived decades of tabloid vilification herself. Her counsel was consistent: silence is dignity. Let him shout. We endure. And last but not least, Sir Clive Alderton, the king's private secretary, the power behind the throne. Alderton specialized in constitutional law and precedent. He'd been researching the legal mechanisms for title removal for months, preparing for the day Charles might actually pull the trigger. These meetings weren't about if action should be taken. They were about when and how. The discussions, according to one source who spoke anonymously, were agonizing. Charles would sit in his favorite chair, hands clasped, listening to arguments from both sides. William pushing for immediate action. Camilla urging patience. Alderton laying out the constitutional and PR implications. "It's not just my son," Charles reportedly said during one meeting. "It's the future king's brother. History will judge this decision for centuries." But 3 specific incidents in late 2023 and early 2024 finally tipped the scales. The first incident was the coronation aftermath. Harry attended his father's coronation in May 2023, but the visit was ice cold. He sat in the 3rd row. He didn't appear on the Buckingham Palace. The balcony flew back to California within hours, missing the coronation concert and family gatherings entirely. The optics were terrible. But what really stung Charles was what he learned later. Harry had been negotiating a tell-all interview with a major American network during the coronation planning. The interview never happened, but the fact that Harry had even considered it while his father was being crowned. Charles saw it as the ultimate betrayal. The second incident was the court victory turned weapon. In December 2023, Harry won his lawsuit against Mirror Group newspapers, proving phone hacking had occurred. It was a vindication of his privacy fight. But instead of quiet satisfaction, Harry used the victory to launch fresh attacks on the British press establishment and, by extension, the monarchy's relationship with that press. He gave speeches. He wrote op-eds. He positioned himself as a warrior against institutional corruption. Charles saw it differently. Harry was using the family name to wage a personal war that damaged the crown's carefully maintained relationships with media outlets. And then for the third and final incident, it was the American popularity contest. By early 2024, polling showed something that palace officials found deeply concerning. In the United States, Harry and Meghan were nearly as recognizable as King Charles himself. They'd built a rival brand, a competing monarchy essentially operating from California. Their foundation, their Netflix deal, their Spotify contract before it collapsed, their Archewell brand, all of it trading on royal association while simultaneously attacking royal institutions. They want independence while keeping the credentials, one senior courtier told The Times. That's not how this works. For Charles, the breaking point came in February 2024. Harry reportedly asked through intermediaries about bringing Meghan and the children to the UK for a family reconciliation attempt. Charles wanted to say yes. His father's heart ached to see his grandchildren. But William threatened to boycott any meeting that included Meghan. The rift was complete. That's when Charles made his decision. Not in anger, not in haste, but with the heavy certainty of a king who'd run out of options. The plan? Royal warfare without warfare. Here's where the story gets fascinating, and where King Charles revealed himself to be far more strategically brilliant than anyone gave him credit for. Charles didn't want a public spectacle. He'd seen what happened when Edward VIII abdicated, when Diana died, when Harry left. Media circuses helped no one. So he crafted something different: digital diplomacy. The plan, as it unfolded, was genius in its simplicity. Phase 1, the subtle shifts. The royal family website began showing small, almost unnoticeable changes. Harry and Meghan's profiles moved down the page. Their patronages were listed as former. Their photographs were updated to older, less prominent images. Each change was small enough to avoid headlines, but cumulatively, they sent a message: you're being erased. Phase 2, the Festival of Remembrance setup. The Festival of Remembrance in early November became the perfect stage for Charles's next move. This sacred event honors British military veterans and war dead. It's solemn, respected, apolitical. Charles knew the world would be watching. He knew it would be his first major public appearance after health challenges. And he knew it was the ideal moment to demonstrate what the monarchy still meant: duty, service, sacrifice. Everything Harry and Meghan's California lifestyle was not. The palace communications team prepared meticulously. No advance briefings about Harry, no speculation about whether he'd be invited, just silence. And on the night of the festival itself, that silence became deafening. Phase 3. The digital execution. The night before the Festival of Remembrance, at 2:14 a.m., Palace Wine IT staff updated the royal family website. The changes were made during the dead of night, when the fewest people would notice immediately. But royal watchers are obsessive. They notice everything. By dawn, screenshots were circulating. Duke and Duchess of Sussex had been replaced throughout the site with simply Harry and Meghan. Their formal royal titles stripped away with the click of a mouse. No press release, no explanation, just the cold digital reality of erasure. The festival where absence spoke volumes. Let me take you inside the Royal Albert Hall on November 9th, 2024. The night everything became undeniable. The venue glowed like a crimson jewel beneath London's autumn rain. 2,000 guests filled the seats: veterans, military families, dignitaries, and senior royals. The air hummed with solemn anticipation. King Charles arrived with Queen Camilla, his hand gently at her back. He looked tired. The cancer treatment had taken its toll, but determined. This was his moment to remind Britain what the monarchy still meant. Prince William and Catherine followed. William in his military dress uniform, Catherine luminous in black silk with a cascade of poppies pinned to her lapel. Even young Prince George attended, sitting between his parents, his young face serious as he absorbed the gravity of the occasion. The symbolism was powerful. 3 generations of the monarchy, united in service, focused on honoring those who'd sacrificed everything for Britain. And the empty seats, the ones reserved for Harry and Meghan? They didn't exist, not even symbolically. No place cards, no acknowledgement, nothing. To the trained eye, that absence was louder than any announcement.
When King Charles rose to speak, the hall fell into absolute silence. His voice, though aged and slightly, carried conviction. We gathered tonight to remember those who gave their lives in service to this nation. Service demands sacrifice. It demands putting duty before comfort, country before self. These are not just words from the past. They are eternal principles that must guide us forward. Then came the line that would echo for weeks. Sometimes the greatest courage is not in battle, but in choosing duty over noise. Duty over noise. Did you hear it? That carefully chosen phrase that could mean everything or nothing depending on how you listened. The British press corps sitting in the gallery heard it. They typed frantically into their phones. Royal commentators watching from home heard it.
They began drafting opinion pieces before Charles had even returned to his seat. And in Monticello, California, where the broadcast aired at midday, Harry and Meghan heard it too. According to sources close to the couple, Meghan's response was immediate. She watched Charles deliver that line, then quietly closed her laptop and said to the room, "Well, that's that then." Harry said nothing. He simply walked out to the garden and stayed there for an hour. Because they both understood what the rest of the world was just beginning to realize. The door hadn't just closed, it had been locked from the inside. Monticello's response, cry sismo. Let's fly across the Atlantic now, because while London slept satisfied that night, Monticello descended into chaos. The Sussex estate, that $14 million mansion in the California hills with its immaculate gardens and security gates, became ground zero for a PR emergency, the likes of which their team had never faced. By 1 p.m. on California time, Harry and Meghan's phones were blowing up. Text messages from friends asking if the rumors were true. Emails from business partners probing brand fallout. Calls from journalists demanding comment. And Hollywood contacts suddenly going cold. Their publicists scrambled an emergency Zoom call. The roster? The Crisis Communication Squad. Legal advisors focused on international branding, entertainment industry consultants, and even mental health professionals. The question on everyone's mind? What do we say? Option 1. Release a statement denying everything, claiming the website changes were technical errors. The problem here was that nobody would believe it, and it would make them look desperate. Option 2. Ignore it completely. Maintain dignity through silence. The problem here was that silence would be interpreted as defeat. Their brand depends on controlling their narrative. Option 3. Go on offense. Book a major interview. Tell their side. Play the victim card. The problem here was that after Oprah, after Netflix, after Spare, would anyone even care anymore? Or would it just look like more noise? One advisor reportedly told Meghan, "If you respond, you give them power. If you don't respond, they've already won. There's no good move here." That's when reality hit. King Charles had boxed them in perfectly. He'd taken action without taking action. He made a statement without making a statement. And any response from Harry and Meghan would only amplify the very narrative they needed to escape. Meghan, ever the strategist, made the call. We say nothing for now. But privately, sources say she was furious, not just at Charles, but at the entire situation. Years of carefully building a post-royal brand, advocacy, authenticity, independence, suddenly threatened by 4 missing words on a website. Harry's reaction was different, more hurt than angry, more resigned than rebellious. A friend who visited the estate that week told People magazine, "He's not raging against his father. He's grieving the relationship they might have had. There's a difference." The global reaction, divided by oceans and opinions. While Harry and Meghan wrestled with their response in California, the world erupted in debate. And the divide was fascinating, split almost perfectly along geographical and generational lines. In Britain, approval mixed with sympathy. British polling conducted 3 days after the Festival of Remembrance showed 64% approved of King Charles's handling. 52% think Harry and Meghan should lose their titles permanently. 41% still feel sympathy for the couple, and 78% want the royal family to move on from the drama. British commentators praised Charles's restraint. The Telegraph ran a column titled, the king who leads through silence. The Times called it constitutional elegance. But even supporters acknowledged the human cost. One columnist wrote, "Charles has preserved the monarchy's dignity, but at what price to his relationship with his son?" American reaction skewed heavily toward Harry and Meghan. Major talk shows like The View gave whole episodes to the king's cruelty. Celebs such as Oprah, Serena Williams, and Ellen DeGeneres posted supportive messages. U.S. polls found 61% siding with Harry and Meghan over Charles, and hashtag #Stand with Harry and Meghan trended on Twitter for 3 straight days. The cultural difference was stark. Americans saw a father punishing his son for seeking independence and speaking his truth. Britain saw a king enforcing necessary boundaries against family members who disrespected the institution. Same facts, completely opposite interpretations. The Hollywood factor, when royal becomes regular. Here's where the title situation creates a genuine crisis for Harry and Meghan that goes beyond hurt feelings. It threatens their entire business model. Let's be brutally honest about why they've been able to command such massive deals. Netflix didn't pay them $100 million because Harry is a great documentarian or Meghan is a natural producer. They paid for the royal association, the titles, the access, the insider perspective. Spotify didn't give them millions for a podcast because of their audio expertise. They paid for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex brand recognition. Their Archwell Foundation receives donations partly because of their royal credentials. Publishers advance them massive deals because books by royals sell. Strip away the titles, and what unt? They're still bankable, but they're no longer in the stratosphere. The mystique is gone. Meghan's team began quietly reaching out to branding experts, exploring options to pivot their image. One strategy memo that leaked suggested positioning Meghan as a lifestyle guru and humanitarian, independent of royal association. But here's the problem. That's exactly what she was trying to escape when she married Harry. She'd been a successful actress, a blogger, an advocate. The royal title elevated her beyond that. Losing it means returning to square one, except now with far more baggage. The constitutional question. Can he even do this? Now let's address the elephant in the room. Did King Charles actually have the legal authority to strip Harry and Meghan's titles? The answer is complicated. Under the British Constitution, such as it is, Britain famously lacks a single written constitution. Titles granted by letters patent can technically only be removed by an act of Parliament or by the monarch issuing new letters patent. When Harry and Meghan got married, Queen Elizabeth II issued letters patent granting Meghan the title Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex and confirming Harry's style as His Royal Highness the Duke of Sussex. To formally remove those titles would require Charles to issue new letters patent explicitly revoking them. That's a huge deal, a formal, public, legally binding action that would generate massive headlines and potentially ugly legal challenges. But here's what Charles actually did. He didn't formally strip anything. He simply changed how they're referred to on official platforms. It's the difference between being fired and being restructured out of relevance. By removing their titles from the royal family website, from official materials, from public references, Charles is essentially treating them as if they don't hold those titles without the formal action of removing them. Brilliant or cowardly? Depends on your perspective. Constitutional experts are divided. Professor Robert Blackburn of King's College London told the BBC, "This is governing through convention rather than law. The king is establishing a new reality through practice, not proclamation." Others argue it's constitutionally questionable. If Harry and Meghan legally hold those titles, can they simply be ignored into non-existence? The palace's position, conveyed through unnamed sources, is essentially, we never said they don't have titles, we just choose not to use them. That's our prerogative. Legally murky? Absolutely. Effective? Devastatingly so. William's role, the brother who pushed. We need to talk about Prince William's role in all this because understanding his position is crucial to understanding why this happened.
William and Harry were once inseparable, the boys who walked behind their mother's coffin, hands barely reaching the top of the gun carriage, the princes who vowed to support each other forever, the brothers who seemed to embody the future of the monarchy. That bond is dead, completely, irrevocably. Sources close to William paint a picture of a man who felt betrayed at the deepest level. It wasn't just the public attacks in interviews and books. It was the private trust destroyed. Harry had promised William before Megxit that he'd keep family matters private. Then came Oprah. He'd promised the Netflix documentary would be respectful. Then came the footage mocking royal protocols. He'd promised Spare would focus on his own story, not family accusations. Then came detailed accounts of physical altercations and private conversations. Each broken promise hardened William's heart a little more. By 2024, sources say William's position to his father was clear. He can come back when he apologizes privately and publicly. Until then, he's out, and that includes the titles. William reportedly told Charles, "Every time they use those titles, it gives them credibility to attack us. It's like giving your enemy your own sword." Catherine, Princess of Wales, shared her husband's views. After the Netflix documentary's release, she reportedly told a friend, "I will never trust them again, ever." This wasn't just William being stubborn. This was the future king making a strategic calculation. The monarchy could not move forward while carrying the weight of Harry and Meghan's continued royal association. And Charles, who'd spent his entire life waiting to be king, couldn't ignore his heir's counsel. One palace insider described a crucial meeting in September 2024. William laid out his position. If Harry keeps the titles, he's essentially Charles's problem. When William becomes king, he'll deal with it his way, and it might be messy. Better for Charles to handle it now cleanly. That argument appears to have convinced Charles that action couldn't be delayed any longer. The human cost? What nobody wants to admit. Here's what gets lost in all the strategic analysis, the polling data, the constitutional debates, and the media frenzy. This is a family being torn apart. Whatever you think about who's right or wrong, whoever you blame, however you analyze the situation, at the center of this is a father and son who loved each other and now barely speak. A grandfather who may never have a relationship with his grandchildren. Two brothers who once shared everything and now share only bitterness. A family gathering for Christmas where one son will be absent and everyone will pretend his empty seat is normal. King Charles is 77 years old. He's battled cancer. He waited his entire life to be king. And now his reign is partly defined by his estrangement from his younger son. That's not strategic triumph. That's tragedy. Harry, for all his privilege and wealth, is raising children who barely know their British family. He's built a life in California, but by most accounts, he's not entirely at peace with it. Friends describe him as homesick for a home that no longer exists. And Meghan? She's in an impossible position, blamed by many for the rift, celebrated by others for her courage, but ultimately just a woman who fell in love with a prince and found the fairy tale was a nightmare. Their children, Archie and Lilibet, are growing up knowing their grandfather is King of England, but never seeing him. They have titles, Prince and Princess, granted by Charles, but no relationship with the institution those titles represent. What kind of psychological complexity does that create for children? These are the questions nobody wants to ask because they're uncomfortable and don't fit neatly into Team Harry or Team Palace narratives. But they're the questions that matter most. The Palace strategy: silence as power. Let's return to King Charles's master strategy, because what he's accomplished here is genuinely remarkable from a communication standpoint. By refusing to issue a formal statement, by letting actions speak instead of words, Charles has avoided giving Harry and Meghan any concrete statements to weaponize, kept plausible deniability by labeling website changes as mere administrative updates, let the media fill the vacuum and generate headlines like "King takes quiet action against Sussex drama." demonstrated royal authority through decisive, unannounced moves, and protected his health amid cancer treatment at 77. One communications expert told The Guardian this is masterclass royal strategy. Charles learned from his mother that the crown's power comes not from what it says, but from what it doesn't need to say. Queen Camilla's influence is evident here too. She survived decades of media warfare and learned that sometimes the best response is no response. Let others rage while you remain serene. But there's a danger in this approach too. Silence can be interpreted as coldness. And in the court of public opinion, especially among younger generations, a father who won't speak to his son can look less like a dignified monarch and more like a heartless parent. The future. 3 possible scenarios. So where does this go from here? Based on conversations with palace insiders, royal experts, and those close to the Sussex camp, 3 scenarios seem most likely. Scenario 1. Permanent rift, 45%. Harry and Meghan never reconcile. They stay in California as independent celebrities. Charles and Harry never speak again. William becomes king with his brother, a distant footnote, and Archie and Lilibet grow up fully American, turning the Sussex saga into a cautionary tale of leaving the firm. Scenario 2. Slow reconciliation, 35%. Years pass, emotions cool, and near the end of Charles's life, he reaches out. Harry, now a father, accepts a tentative peace. William remains aloof, and the couple returns from major events, funerals, weddings, coronations, but never resume royal duties, keeping the relationship cordial yet distant. Scenario 3. Shock reconciliation, 20%. A dramatic event, Charles's health crash, a crisis involving William's child, or the collapse of Harry and Meghan's California life, forces swift behind-the-scenes talks. Harry issues a public apology. Charles and William agree to forgive but not forget, and the Sussexes resume limited UK involvement, though not as working royals, sparking massive media frenzy. The question only you can answer. I've given you the facts, the timeline, the strategy, the speculation, but now I want to hear from you, because this story isn't just about royals and palaces or celebrities in California. It's about family, about forgiveness, about whether some rifts are too deep to heal. Here's what I want to know. If you were King Charles, what would you have done? Would you have taken Harry's titles away completely, formally, and publicly, making the break clean and definitive? Would you have kept trying to reconcile, offering olive branch after olive branch, even as attacks continued? Or would you have done exactly what Charles did, quietly and strategically, diminish their royal standing without formal dramatics? And if you were Harry, what would you do now? Would you fight back? Book that tell-all interview? Defend your truth even if it means permanent exile? Would you swallow your pride, apologize for the hurt you've caused, and try to rebuild bridges? Or would you do what they're doing? Stay silent, focus on your California life, and let time decide what comes next. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And I mean, really share what you think, not what you think you're supposed to think, not the party line from either team. What does your gut tell you? Because here's the truth, there are no perfect answers here. Every choice has a cost. Every path leaves someone hurt. And maybe that's the real lesson of this entire saga. The silence speaks. As I speak, it's been a couple of months since those website changes appeared. 3 weeks since the Festival of Remembrance, where duty triumphed over noise. In London, King Charles continues his duties, steady, quiet, determined, his health improving slowly, his reign defined not by drama, but by dignified endurance. In California, Harry and Meghan continue building their life, their children growing, their projects moving forward, their royal past becoming increasingly distant. And between those two worlds, silence. No statements, no reconciliations, no dramatic reveals, just the vast empty space where a family relationship used to exist. Queen Elizabeth once said, "Grief is the price we pay for love." Perhaps estrangement is the price we pay for choosing ourselves over expectations.
for choosing truth over tradition, for choosing independence over institution. Or maybe it's simply the price of pride on both sides being more powerful than the bond of blood. I don't have the answer. I'm not sure anyone does. What I do know is this. Somewhere in London, a king sits in his study late at night, looking at photographs of his sons as boys, and wonders if he made the right choice. And somewhere in California, a prince walks his garden at dawn, looking at the life he's built, and wonders if the cost was worth the freedom. Both might be right. Both might be wrong. And that's the tragedy of it all. The titles may be gone from the website. The doors may be closed. The silence may reign. But the questions about duty and family, about freedom and responsibility, about what we owe those who raised us and what we owe ourselves, those questions remain, and they don't have easy answers. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. If this story moved you, challenged you, or made you think, please share it. Let's start a conversation that goes beyond taking sides and gets to the heart of what family really means. And remember, whether you're Team Palace or Team Sussex, whether you believe in duty over noise or truth over tradition, we're all just trying to figure out how to love the people who hurt us and forgive the people we love. That's not a royal problem. That's a human one. And maybe understanding that is the first step toward compassion for everyone caught in this impossible situation. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and remember, even crowns can't protect hearts from breaking.